Hey, welcome to Mortality with Meep. And we're going to be looking at excess deaths, actual numbers in the United States from the CDC, or the National Vital Statistics System, where they record deaths. And they do it week by week. They have a report out that is updated daily. So first I'm going to show you the resources that the CDC provides that you can look at yourself. And I want to talk a little bit about the numbers I'm seeing and what these mean to me in terms of interpreting them. So the first one, provisional death counts for coronavirus disease, COVID-19. They update this every day. I don't know what time they updated, obviously, before I started this video. But they have two tables on this page currently, as I record this. And one is the week-by-week death counts. And we see, I'll say week ending date in which the deaths occurred. And they start it before any official COVID-19 deaths so that they catch the first one that is officially indicated as a COVID-19 death. Okay, so far in this one, and of course this does not match up with what you're going to see in a lot of the COVID-19 trackers, and that's because some states don't have their stuff to the CDC yet. Most of the coronavirus trackers that you see in terms of cases and deaths and that kind of thing get the data directly from specific states, departments of health, etc. The CDC is another layer on top of that. In particular, Connecticut and North Carolina have more than 1 month's worth of data owing to the CDC, and we'll be seeing that. In any case, so this one has 45,632 COVID-19 deaths. Then we get the total count of deaths. And this is a summation over all of the jurisdictions that you'll see below. So 780,085, and that's from week ending February 1st to the week ending May 2nd. So this is a period of a little more than 3 months that they're looking at. Then the percent of expected deaths, and I can go to the footnote, but I've already have it more or less memorized. This is the 780,000, etc. You compare it to the same period, so same number of weeks, from 2017 to 2019, just take that average, that's your expected deaths. Okay, it's very straightforward. You can check it yourself. And I will be doing that with a spreadsheet myself so we can see the numbers in a different way than they're presenting here. Then they have pneumonia deaths with pneumonia and COVID-19, influenza deaths. And all of these codes, have a meaning in terms of how one codes cause of death. And you can have multiple causes of death, by the way. There will be a primary cause of death, but then you can have a whole bunch of contributing factors. And those do get recorded, and those are used in analysis. So let's look at these patterns. I don't want to look at the COVID-19 death patterns so much, but I will point something out when we get there. I want to point out the pattern in deaths from all causes. First off, there is already a seasonality to deaths. We expect a peak at the end of December, beginning of January, and then it comes down, and the trough is in the middle of the year, in the summer. Okay, and that's how it works for the U.S. Obviously, for Southern Hemisphere countries, it usually goes the other way, while their summer and their winter are swapped from ours. In any case, so we see it's about 57,000 deaths, and it's trekking along about 97% of expected deaths, a little lower, and we might expect this because the 2017 to 2018 flu season, so there'd be the death numbers in 2018 were elevated from a bad flu season. Though again, most of that was in January, not February. Okay, so we go here, 57, not bad. Oh, it ticks down a little bit in March and a little bit more in mid-March, and then it starts coming up, and then boom, goes from about 55,000 up to 58,000. 38,000 at the end of March. And that's where we're seeing these COVID death numbers really start to pump up. And it goes from 97% of expected to 104% of expected. That is a large jump, okay? That is a real change. And here's something else I want to point out. These numbers, these death counts, are based on when the death occurred, not when it got recorded. Some of the data trackers that I've been seeing out there with COVID-19 deaths in particular are when the death was recorded or reported, not when it actually happened. And that's a difference. The IHME folks did fix some of their problems with their views. I don't know if they deliberately smoothed. It actually looks like they deliberately smoothed the data so that you didn't see the very crazy jumps that came from, again, say one person being in charge of recording the deaths. And they might have some intermittent days there for a while. And it's not because there were no deaths just because that person was off for the day. That's because it was by reported date. Anyway, if we keep going, we see it really goes up here, beginning of April, 117%. Then April 11th, that's the week ending April 11th, 126%. Then it starts coming down. You're thinking, oh, maybe it peaked then. We don't know. Because I'm going to tell you right now, that 88% and 35%, that is all just an artifact that it takes a while before the data get to the CDC. Okay, New York and New York City seem to be pretty fast in getting the data to the CDC, but other states are not. And we don't know that there may be some missing deaths. I remember just a few days ago, all of a sudden they're like, oh, 1,700 deaths previously unreported from nursing homes in New York State. That's quite a few deaths to overlook, don't you think? So that was table 1. Table 2. So here is the one where it's not week by week, but it's state by state. It's the same columns, and it's for the same period. So week ending February 1st to week ending May 2nd. So a little more than 3 months. And we get the same numbers for the total for United States. But if we sort, so I'm going to sort on percent of expected deaths, we can see for this 3-month period, New York City is 228% the expected deaths. So that's 128% above your expected level. It's more than double normal deaths for the same period. And I'm going to tell you, and we'll see this, this was not uniformly impacting over the period. There were a few weeks where it was really high. New Jersey is also similarly high, 140%, so nearly 40% higher than one would expect. These are huge deviations for mortality trends. We normally do not see things go up, a few percentage points difference. A few percent difference is huge normally and has effects for, say, life insurance company results. Anyway, New York is actually New York State without New York City, and even that is 123%. And if they really focused on here in the ring around New York City, where we look at Rockland County, Orange County, Westchester County, where I am, Nassau and Suffolk, which are on Long Island, those are pretty high too. Massachusetts, 116%. So Michigan is high, Colorado, Illinois, 6% higher, 7%, 8%. Some of those numbers are, for short periods equivalent to a bad flu season, but this is over a 3-month period. With regards to bad flu seasons, those extra percents are usually heaped up over 4 weeks at most. So that's something to consider. There really is some high extra mortality coming from COVID-19. And something I want to point out to you, so the total number of deaths was 34,000 for New York City. The total number of official COVID-19 deaths for this data set was 13,000. No, not all the deaths are getting coded as COVID-19. Not on any of the weeks, okay? They are coding things other than COVID-19. Even New York City may be undercounting their COVID-19 cases, and we'll see that in a moment. So similarly, New Jersey, about 6,000 COVID-19 deaths, and all deaths was 29,000. Okay? So it's a good percentage. Good percentage, it's a bad percentage, but it's not 100%. So here is the other tab, excess deaths associated with COVID-19. And if you want to play around with these, I'm putting the links in the notes to the video, and you can check them out yourself. So this is a visualization, excess deaths data visualization, and they use Tableau. Okay. And I'm going to explain, they have a variety of dashboards you can choose. There's the CSV format of the data. I downloaded that last night, and that will be my second video of what I did with that. But here they show a week-by-week number of deaths going back to January 2017. And this yellow line is that expected trend. Now, that is not an average, and I am not going to bother looking into the footnotes to see how they developed that yellow line because I don't care. In any case, we can see here, this is the bad, and these pluses are highlighting excess mortality, where it goes beyond where we expect a threshold. If it goes beyond that, something bad is going on. And here is the 20, and it looks like 6 weeks. Okay, 6 weeks of excess mortality from flu for the 2017-2018 season. So we can see the end. So we have December, end of 2017, beginning of 2018, and that's where you have your peaks of deaths. So when we get to 2020, boom, this is a lot higher. This excess, if we look at this pop out, the percent excess, let me see if I can get the peak. Give me the peak, dang it. It's about 9%. Here, this excess peak that we're seeing was about 30-something percent, if I remember correctly, 36%. Now this is the problem. There's so many of these. Yeah, 36.8%. I'll note here, this is much lower, and that's because it's the most recent week. They have the week ending April 25th, and not all the data are in yet, so we don't know all about all the deaths. And that can be even true of the week ending April 18th. Let's pick a couple of other jurisdictions. I'm going to pick Connecticut because I'm annoyed at them. And you'll see why. Let's see what they show. Come on, give me Connecticut. Connecticut. Sometimes it resets itself for some reason. Okay, so this is giving deaths, but yeah, this is not matching up with some of the data I saw. And part of the problem is you can see, this is not tens of thousands of deaths, it's hundreds of deaths, and our count is way underneath. It must be because they don't have a COVID breakout they were sending. I don't know. There's something wrong. Let me do North Carolina. Yeah, we're missing a lot of more recent data. And it's when you have a smaller population, it's harder to have a stable expectation, kind of the error bars of what we expect in normal mortality fluctuation is going to be order of magnitude a lot higher than in a much higher population place like, say, New York. So let's go to New York City. New York City even usually bumps around at North Carolina levels of death. A little lower, it's not as big. But here you go, boom. These are deaths in New York City. Now, before you start saying, well, it's people from outside New York City coming in to die in the city. Yes, that's some of them. But New York State, and I'm not showing this here right now, they have been keeping track, at least with regards to the coronavirus deaths that are officially recorded. And they record if the residence, the county of residence, is different from one of the 5 boroughs of New York City. if you die in New York City. And that's true of actually any of the counties in New York. And yeah, of course, New York City is going to have a lot of crossover compared to other counties in New York State. But that is not what is driving these numbers. It's people in New York City, and I believe especially in the Bronx, that have and Queens have really been driving it. So yeah, it looks like April 11th was kind of a peak of the excess deaths in New York City. But again, we might just not have updated data. Okay, and I can do New York State without New York City. New York. Okay, so even when we exclude New York City, we have a peak, it comes down, but again, that may be a fake dropping of the peak. Something to keep in mind, just from this data set. There are other data sets that they're not one-to-one. So again, most of the COVID data trackers are getting it directly from the individual states, not from the CDC, because that's another layer above. Okay, weekly excess deaths. So here we go, excess deaths with and without COVID-19. Update dashboard. So now we have the green and blue. So blue are the number of COVID-19 deaths officially recorded, and then green are all the rest of the deaths. And we can see that there was an undercounting, potentially, of COVID-19 deaths in New York State. Let's go back to the United States level, and we should probably be able to see that a little better. Not much, so here is the thing, if you just focus on the hard-hit areas, New York City, New York, New Jersey, yeah, let's try New Jersey, I haven't displayed New Jersey yet. There we go. Even here, where they have a lot of recorded COVID-19 deaths, there's a lot more excess deaths than just what is coded as COVID-19. Okay. The point is, no, I really doubt that COVID-19 is being overcounted as a cause of death anywhere. Okay, so let's see, with and without weighting. Pardon me. I'm actually not quite sure. Oh, yeah, accounting for underreporting. I really don't want to get into that. I don't like that one. Okay, number of excess deaths. We'll do that one. So the number of excess deaths, you can do multiple jurisdictions, and they excluded some because we don't have good data there, I would say. So New York City has the most excess deaths, and again, mostly, almost definitely driven by COVID-19. The New York State, excluding New York City, the New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Michigan. Now, these other states could come up, especially some of the more populous states like Texas and California and Florida, especially since New Yorkers fly there, especially Florida. But I don't know. We're going to see how that turns out because it's not going to stay locked down forever. And let's see if I have one more. Is it going to give me one more? I might have to reset. Okay, so the percent of excess deaths. So this is an interesting display. I'm going to show you something similar to that in my second video where I have my own spreadsheet. So here are the various jurisdictions going along, and then the weeks going to the right. And they have like a color-coded week by week. And you can see that New York City, again in April, really high, but again, maybe coming down now, but these are not necessarily complete data weeks. Anyway, provide you with the links. You can play with this data set yourself. And in the second video, I'm going to share with you a spreadsheet I built that, again, you can download it and play with it yourself using this data set.